The most asked for national holiday ever, right? Super Bowl Monday. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being hungover and appeasing your hangover with some baseball. Jack, Aram, just baseball show for Monday, February 13th. We're recording it 1:15 on February 12th. So this is like, 5 hours before the Super Bowl kicks off? I've got Philly to win. You've got Kansas City to win, right?
Yes, and most importantly, February 12th is the day that you were born 25 years ago.
I didn't
right?
agree
So
this. I didn't agree.
yeah,
to
I know you didn't.
The birthday on the
We
podcast.
don't need to go too deep into it. All I want to say is if you were a prospect, you'd be cooked.
I so cooked, dude.
You'd be traded to Oakland for a reliever if you were a prospect.
Oh yeah? Oh, is that so?
Yeah, because that's what the 25-year-old prospect that the Marlins had just happened to. So JJ Bleday, we're going to talk about that. But happy birthday to Jack. If you are listening and follow Jack on social media, shoot him a tweet, shoot him a DM so that he has to say thank you. If you want to make him even more uncomfortable, send him a video just singing him happy birthday. That wouldn't work the same way because the whole point is the discomfort, like how uncomfortable you are during the singing of happy birthday.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what to do with yourself.
So we've got like a company group text with a bunch of the writers and editors and everything like that, our video people, graphics people. And you mentioned something like that, right? It's everybody wish Jack a happy birthday. So he has to say thank you to all of them. And couple of days ago, I pointed out some character flaws. Our college baseball guy is a Pirates fan. And I said, your character flaw is hoping for something positive from the Pittsburgh Pirates in recent years. Your character flaw is, you go back and watch JUCO defensive tape of like the 10th best prospect in the Red system.
Yeah.
And my character flaw is I'm an asshole. So I'll probably just like the tweet and I won't say thank you. So you can stay away from doing that. But there's no way I'd rather prep for the Super Bowl on the B-Day than having red wine at 1.
Oh, you've got some vino too.
It's all about vino. Having red, I can do whatever I want, man. So it's having red wine. It's talking about AJ Puk for JJ Bleday. It's talking about an incentive-laden Alex Reyes deal with the Dodgers, who everybody is just like deeming this total success of a signing for the Dodgers now because the Dodgers did it. And I want to talk about that. And then we're going to grade the off seasons of NL West teams. So that's that. I want to start with Bleday and Puk. I'll open the floor to you and then I'll fill in where I think you may be missing. I don't think you're going to miss much.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think, you can definitely add a lot of context to these guys because, you're always on it with the college guys, right? And you always, I think you follow the college guys closer because I don't know. This is an anecdotal, pickup that I kind of have from you is that, you love to follow like that lefty college guy that dominated at UF, AJ Puk, or that breakout outfielder for Vanderbilt that has really turned himself into a really exciting prospect, JJ Bleday. What's interesting is both of these guys, top 6 picks, both of which did not really have their careers go the way that they wanted for different reasons, right? AJ Puk, you have a guy that really just dealt with injuries. When he was healthy in the minors, shoved. When he was healthy in the big leagues at points was good, but then also tried to pitch through injuries as well. Bleday, it's a little bit different. It's just never really quite put it together with wood. Like other than the Cape, he could never really mash with a wood bat. And it was that simple. And the power wasn't there. And I'll get into the swing and the intricacies and everything there. I want to start with just the trade in a vacuum, Jack, because then and I'll get into the weeds of JJ Bleday and why I think the Marlins were okay with selling off from what they have at this point with him. Because, I got a lot of texts about this one, which was funny because I'm in Colorado right now. If those watching on YouTube, I'm visiting my mom. And it was one of those situations where I didn't have reception because of the mountains. And so I didn't see the trade until an hour later. And an hour later, I get 8 texts. What the hell is this trade? From people I don't talk to that much, people I do talk to, my cousin, whatever it may be. And a lot of people at first were like, I don't get this because of this very simple point. Why would a team that has a ton of pitching trade kind of a semi-disappointing or disappointing outfield prospect that still has some hope for another pitcher who has been semi-disappointing, who still has some hope and showed some good things last year, but showed more ability to contribute at the big league level last year, which is what we'll get into. Right. And what I really responded to all of them is that that part at the end, right? AJ Puk helps your big league team now. JJ Bleday may never help your big league team. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I think the Marlins saw JJ Bleday at the big league level last year. They've seen him at the minors for the last couple seasons. He's made a lot of adjustments. They've been patient. He's made swing adjustments. He's made approach adjustments. He's done a lot of different things, and it hasn't clicked. And I think at this point for the Marlins, he was not going to break into that roster. He's behind Jesus Sanchez, who's competing with Brian De La Cruz for at-bats. And Peyton Burdick is a toolsier version of Bleday. So I think where he was at in the pecking order, they figured this might be our last chance to salvage any value for our former first-rounder. And guess what? AJ Puk, I think, instantly has the upside to be their best reliever from day one. So I think that's something that really helps them for this year. Obviously, it's not going to make them a playoff team, but I like the move.
So you mentioned Burdick, you mentioned Jesus Sanchez, you mentioned Brian De La Cruz. I would take Gerard Encarnacion over Bleday right now because Gerard has shown that he has this otherworldly pop. He showed it in double, and then he showed it in triple. Then he got just like a brief cameo.
Yeah, I never got a fair shot.
Hey, he didn't have a fair shot, and he hit a grand slam in his MLB debut, right? So
yeah.
And then you just got Mangum in a trade with the Mets for Eliezer Hernandez and another reliever. Who am I missing?
Jeff Brigham.
Yeah. So Eliezer and Brigham returning you Mangum is a really solid pickup in terms of outfield depth. Obviously, your guy Griffin Conine, JD Orr could get a shot at some point. Like, there are a lot of options here. They traded from a surplus to go get something they needed help with. And I think the Rule 5 pickup with Enright and the trade to grab Puk is a massive, massive upgrade for the Marlins. I loved your king and my king. Maybe the most influential person in the United Kingdom, Peter Pratt, tweeted out the bubble screenshots on Baseball Savant. AJ Puk looks a lot like Josh Hader. I'd call it a win. He's so funny. Like, I love him. I'm telling you, we've talked about it. We want Pratt on the pod. I need Peter Pratt on this podcast.
Yeah, no. When the Marlins are 5-2 to start the season, we're bringing them on.
I'm in.
Just before it's too late. But what I will say is, this bullpen was a question mark for me. It's still, it's a question mark, but they've quietly and slowly addressed it. And you know what? This is a team that they're not going to spend a lot of money. And if they're going to spend money, they're going to try to do it on the offensive side. It's hard to justify spending on the reliever side when you're a low budget team and you only have so much ability to add in certain areas. Both these guys have a lot of control. I think for Oakland, it makes a lot of sense, right? You're deep in the rebuild and you don't really need AJ Puk, but what is a reliever going to do for you at this point? He wants to start a little bit. It's not going to happen in Miami. He wanted to start a little bit in Oakland, but think about the guys that Oakland just added. Jack, they added Kyle Muller. They added Ken Waldichuk. They added, who else am I missing in terms of the lefties? I mean, but there was a couple other guys, but they're so deep with these big league ready prospect arms that it's like, why would you try to put Puk back in the rotation when he's been consistently hurt? So you would have been holding on to a reliever and, he's going to be less and less controllable and he'll be 30 and then you're just going to let him walk. Instead, you can take a flyer on an outfielder that they've been interested in for a while. The Marlins had iterations of trade talks around Ramon Laureano before last year and Oakland wanted Bleday. I don't know why. I think he fits the, can he get on base mold? And that's another funny thing that Peter Pratt put out was JJ Bleday highlight tape from his big league stint with the Marlins, and it was just a walk. And that was it. But Bleday's a patient hitter. He's kind of adjusted his approach to be a mistake hitter, which you can be productive enough that way. But if you watched his at-bats, man, just how many times he fouled off a hanger or a center cut fastball, his swing is just, it's inconsistent. You feel like he's just always just a tick off. And it was a little bit frustrating to see that. And then the power is just not totally there. He never was consistently tapping into that exciting power that people hoped. So the hit tool was closer to average than it was supposed to be. And I think it's below average at this point. And the power is closer to average than the plus it was supposed to be too. And I think the Marlins figured at this point, I don't think it was going to happen. And I think I'm okay with the trade. I think people are a little too caught up with, he's a first round pick. Remove the titles at that point. Look at all of the players in a vacuum. Otherwise, you are going to be underselling or overselling your assets, and you're going to put yourself in a bad position. Marlins got better for this year, and you know what? I'm interested to see what Puk can do in another season with Mel Stoudemire Jr., a guy that really helped Jesus Luzardo after he struggled in Oakland and came over. And I know Puk's a buddy of Luzardo, so I know he's excited about that. But
Right.
With Mel Stoudemire Jr. getting his hands on Puk, who already had something click for him last year, what do you think this guy can be? Because he is going to be 27 or 28 on opening day. Obviously, the upside, there's a little bit more there, but it's probably limited to high leverage reliever at this point. What do you think Puk can be? It's obviously not Josh Hader, but what do you think the Marlins could be hoping for here?
Yeah, so he's 27. He's going to celebrate his 28th birthday on April 25th. So that's less than a month into the season. So, this is a guy where, like, I think the ship has sailed on him being a starting pitcher. And you mentioned the depth that you have in the A's system, how he wouldn't be getting starts. Paul Blackburn will start over Puk. Kaprelian will start over Puk. They just signed Rosinski. Like, I guess he would start over Puk. They just signed, Shintaro Fujinami. I don't know anything about him, but he would start over Puk. You got Waldachuk. You got Muller. You've got J.P. Sears, who would be starting over Puk. And then you probably want to audition Freddie Tarnick. You probably want to audition Luis Medina, because, again, these guys are 4 years younger than AJ Puk. And obviously they've got more control. What I will say about Puk is this guy, when you look on a pitch-by-pitch basis this past year, this was his first full year, right? 66 innings. Opponents had a BABIP under 290. Like, opponents had a 286 BABIP, which shows you when they put the ball in play, it's not hammered at all. He's a swing and miss guy, and he's a weak contact inducer. Four-seam fastball, sits 97. Opponents hit under 220 against it. Slider in the mid to high 80s. Opponents hit 202 against it. The sinker is fine, but if he's a fastball slider guy that big, he's 6'7", 250. From that weird arm slot where the ball's coming from right field, it's that Chris Sale type arm slot. I think you can have a nasty, nasty setup guy here. I don't know if he's got closer makeup, because it's like failed starter type thing. But you don't need closer makeup from him. You could have an exceptional guy that causes lefties a serious fit.
In a bullpen that really needed swing and miss, right? I've always made fun of the Marlins, like, sinker baller approach with their relievers. So now they get a reliever that I think is their best swing and miss guy. Think Tanner Scott with better command, right? And that's what they're getting here. So between Puk and Scott now, they've got two lefties. And last thing we'll say before we spend too much time talking about this, at the end of the day, not that much of a ground-breaking move, is remember the Marlins shipped out their lefty Richard Blyer to get Matt Barnes, a righty who, isn't great, but has experience in high leverage and is, again, one of their better, high leverage relievers. And then they just replaced that lefty with a better lefty in AJ Puk. So this Marlins team isn't good, but I think Kim is doing the best that she can between the margins and adding a half a win here, a half a win there. And that's really all you can ask when you don't have much of a budget. So, I like the move. And I'm interested to see how Bleday does in Oakland with consistent at bats, but with the fringy power output that we've seen, I think he's going to struggle a bit in that environment out there, but we'll see. I'm wishing him the best.
My last thing on Bleday is, and I'm somebody that gets caught up in the high floor college bat narrative, right? Like, that's my kryptonite, high floor college bats. I'm all about Tyler McDonough and the Red Sox system still, because all of a sudden he was like a 900 OPS guy at NC State and he played all over. Bleday slugged 700 at Vandy in 2019. In his minor league career, 230 games, he slugged 400. The last time that the baseball fan really saw JJ Bleday play consistently was probably his junior year at Vandy, after he was the best pro prospect on the Cape in 2018. He was really impressive on the Cape. He kicked Brewster's ass with Orleans. He was really good out there. He was He had an 870 OPS. He hit 311 with a 500 OBP in 36 games. At Vandy, 71 games, hit 347, had an OPS at 1150. Since then, the slug is gone. Yeah, he had a 20 homer season in Jacksonville in 85 games.
Selling out pull side, that's what he does.
I mean, he hit 230. That's not what you took fourth overall. You didn't take a guy that is going to hit 230 with 20 bombs. I don't think that's what he does in Oakland. I think that he's probably a 250 guy with 10 to 15 bombs. That's not fourth overall pick. I'd much rather have an elite setup guy than a 1.5, 2 WAR player.
I totally agree. And just for those that are wondering, well, then what happened to this first round pick? Because I think there's some interest just around that is We talked about this on the call up and about how, I think something that Taylor Davis said when he hopped on the episode with us for our 2018 redraft, go check that out, is that there's a point in time in which everybody has people catch up to you as a player.
It's Moneyball. Right? It's Moneyball. We're all told you can't play this game anymore, right?
That's extreme. There's a point in which people catch up to you unless you're Justin Verlander or whoever, right? Yeah. Bleday was more advanced than all of those college guys. And then once he got to high A, which was his first assignment in the minor leagues, it was like, oh shit.
He had a 690 OPS.
Yeah, it didn't really work. And I thought, Florida State League maybe. No, what we started to realize is this guy's power wasn't as impactful as we thought, and he started to realize that. So what does he start doing? I'm going to go pull side, and I'm going to try to get as much out of my juice as I can. And as a result, he did hit for more power, but more swing and miss, lower BABIP because he's rolling over on a lot more and going pull side, and he's easier to game plan for. And how he counteracted that, I'm going to swing less. I'm only going to look for stuff middle in, and that's what I'm going to try to do. The better the pitchers are, the more they're going to pick that apart. What it boils down to me, last thing is JJ Bleday's max exit velocity last year was 108 miles an hour. See, that's good if you're a 55 hit tool guy. He's not a 55 hit tool guy. He's a 3 true outcome hitter at this point. And if you're a 3 true outcome hitter with a 108 mile per hour max exit velo as a pull heavy guy, it's not going to happen. And I think the Marlins kind of sensed that and figured that the profile is very unlikely to pan out at the big league level.
Yeah, I love this move for Kim Ng. I love this move for the Marlins. I mean, overall, like I'd say Kim just came out a winner here. Yep. And I don't like putting final grades on something a day after it happens and before either of these guys play a game for their new team. But that's kind of what you have to do in the offseason. And first reaction to this trade was, I think the Marlins won this one. After the first reaction to the trade with Minnesota is, I think the Twins won this one.
Yep.
So, all right, we're going to start with the Dodgers when grading the NL West, but I do want to talk about what just happened on Saturday, and that's the Dodgers inking Alex Reyes to a heavily incentivized 2-year deal with a club option for, I think, $3 million. Obviously, it escalates to like 4.5 or 5 if he hits some incentives, and I don't think those incentives are public yet. But this is a guy that
it can escalate to 10.
To 10, really?
Yeah.
Damn. All right. So Reyes is a guy that had shoulder surgery this past May. We know he was an all-star caliber, all-world closer at the beginning of the 2021 season. We know he was a top 10 prospect in baseball and arguably the best pitching prospect in baseball when he was coming up. But he has been injury hampered to the point that he was non-tendered by St. Louis. And the one problem I had with what was going on the Twitter sphere and in a lot of writing on Saturday was everybody was labeling this as a massive win for the Dodgers, right? It's, oh yeah, the Dodgers are going to work their magic on Alex Reyes. And to that I say, nobody knows jack shit about Alex Reyes, because if it was going to click with an organization that wasn't the Dodgers or Tampa, it was probably the St. Louis Cardinals. And if the Cardinals are non-tendering this guy, he's a wild card. I don't want to hear sure thing and he's going to regain form about him just because he's a Dodger. Same thing with Syndergaard, right? Oh, he's a Dodger, so he'll be throwing 99 again. The Dodgers can't work miracles on Noah Syndergaard, and they sure as hell can't make Alex Reyes healthy right away.
And I'll be honest, I like the pickup in a vacuum.
Yeah.
But I agree with everything you're saying, and I know you do too.
I wouldn't say it if I didn't agree with it.
Yeah. Noah Syndergaard, I think, is a much more likely candidate to be impacted by the Dodgers than an Alex Reyes, because Syndergaard's coming off of a season where he actually threw a decent amount of innings and, found some success at the end. And, maybe there's an adjustment to his pitch usage or, the shape of some of his stuff, or maybe mechanical change that could put him over the top. Alex Reyes has been injured for the last 8 years on and off, right? And this is a guy that's not going to be ready for the start of the season. This isn't his only shoulder issue. This isn't his only arm issue. The Dodgers are not miracle workers when it comes to health. They don't have, I remember, like, was it Joe Madden bringing in like the witch doctor when he was in Tampa or whatever it was?
Well, and Liam Hendricks.
They're not going to cast a spell. They're not going to, a tarot card reader. They're not going to like cast a spell on Alex Reyes, and now he's going to be impervious to the incredibly unlikely statistics, like very frustrating statistics around not only shoulder injuries, repetitive shoulder injuries, and hard throwers. Look, I love the deal because at the end of the day, they don't really care if it doesn't work out. They've got a million other relievers, and the roster spot's not going to kill them. And also the upside of $2 million in incentives for this year, and then $8 million in incentives on top of next year is something that they don't care about either. But what I think is really important here is not a lot of teams are deep enough and willing to give a big league deal and a big league roster spot to, a guy that might not be ready for the start of the season and may be really rough out of the gate. You don't know what you're getting. The Dodgers can afford to do that both financially and roster spot wise. And that's why they did it. Guess what? If every team was dying to do this, Reyes would have been signed months ago, man. Mm-hmm. This is a really late point in the season for a reliever to get picked up. We saw Chafin get picked up late too. But I think this is a total roll of the dice that the Dodgers are willing to do because of the upside. This has nothing to do with Dodger magic. That's not what this is.
And don't tell me that Dodger magic ID'd Alex Reyes is the guy that they're going to perform witchcraft on, because they are playing the numbers. They did this exact same thing a couple months ago with a fella who had 24 and a third scoreless innings before going down with shoulder surgery. They signed JP Fireeisen after I believe he was DFA'd by Tampa. So they're playing the numbers.
Shelby Miller.
What?
How about Shelby Miller?
Did they grab Shelby Miller?
Yeah.
What the hell? How am I missing these things? But like, you're doing this with Shelby Miller, you're doing this with Fireeisen, you're doing this with Alex Reyes. They're just hoping that one of the three is remotely close to what they once were. They're not going to go 3 for 3. Can we just acknowledge that? Like, as a collective unit, they're not going to go 3 for 3 here.
So it's crazy. You look at injuries. JP Fireeisen, shoulder surgery. Alex Reyes, shoulder surgery. Blake Trinan, shoulder surgery. And then Shelby Miller, you can list it all. It's just not listed in the roster resource. But
because he's Bueller's a TJ guy right now.
Yeah, but Miller's had a few different ailments through the years. Right. So yeah, they're just playing the percentages, which is fine. And it's going to work with one of them. Mm-hmm. I think Fireeisen most likely, because that was his first injury. I think it's very unlikely that Trinan works out. And I think Reyes is almost a second Trinan here. And I think they figured, okay, we got 2 Trinans. Let's see if one of them works. And I like it in that sense. But if you're all pissed at your team for not doing this, I don't know if you totally are giving enough, I guess, emphasis on what goes into the likelihood of this working, and also just the roster spot and the money for a lot of teams, especially with the second year option too. So there's a lot around this, but at the end of the day, this if he's healthy, this bullpen would be so comically disgusting that it just wouldn't be fair.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's jump in with the Dodgers here. Here's what they did, and we're just going like big fish right now because it's Super Bowl Sunday. JD Martinez signed a free agent deal with the Red Sox for 1 year. They signed David Peralta to a 1-year deal, I think $6.5 million. They trade Jacob Amaya for Miguel Rojas on their bench. They do sign Jason Hayward to a free agent deal. He's a non-roster invite to spring training, but as of right now, looks like he's on the projected bench. They signed Noah Syndergaard to a 1-year free agent deal. They grabbed Shelby Miller on a free agent deal. And then again, they grabbed JP Fireeisen and Alex Reyes for pennies on the dollar. I don't love this offseason at all. You tell me that a projected opening day bench of Austin Barnes, Miguel Rojas, and Chris Taylor and Jason Hayward is good. I don't believe you one bit. I think it's a bad bench. You're phasing out Pages and you're phasing out James Outman with the David Peralta signing. I mean, I don't know where to go with this grade. I wish they did more, especially in the starting rotation with Buehler on the mend. There were better 1-year candidates here. Hell, there were better 2-year candidates here. As of right now, the projected starting 5, Kershaw, Urias, Gonsolin, May. Fine. Syndergaard is the 5. Terrified.
Yeah, the good news is they've got Bobby Miller and
Gavin Stone,
even Ryan Pepiot potentially, or some other options. Of course, we love what they've got going on there with Gavin Stone as well. But at the end of the day, this is the Dodgers. You're not counting on prospects. That's not what you're supposed to do.
No,
isn't this offseason by the Dodgers very San Francisco Giants?
Yeah,
in terms of like just kind of like platoon-ish guy here, like an okay signing there. And I know the Giants were way bigger in terms of the signings this year, but over the last couple of years, like this was a very San Francisco Giants offseason to me. They kind of address some areas, but it's a pseudo address. I liked the moves that they made in a nutshell. If there were bigger moves to, accentuate that, right? Like, I don't love the idea of an outfield of David Peralta, Trace Thompson, and then of course Mookie Betts, but Mookie Betts might end up sliding into second. And if Mookie Betts slides into second, then what the hell is your outfield? Then you put Chris Taylor out there. So it's going to be Taylor, Thompson, and Peralta. Like, I don't really like that. Rojas is a great bench guy. I think that was a good pickup in that regard because he is an elite defensive shortstop. If Gavin Lux gets like the yips again defensively, or, you just have a middle infield issue where Vargas isn't working out or Mookie, you don't want him there, whatever, like Rojas is going to play Gold Glove caliber shortstop. And that's the good thing. And I think he's going to bounce back slightly offensively to be, a good bench bat. But I agree. I think there's a lot of areas where I look at the Dodgers. I don't think it's a gaping hole, but I don't think it's, this is definitely a team that's going to, outrun and outperform the Padres over 162. I don't know if I totally sense that. And the Padres have some of their own questions too, but I just don't get that vibe from this team when you are starting a guy in Trace Thompson that you're putting a lot of stock in a bounce back from last year. And I get it. You can put Chris Taylor out there, but Chris Taylor took a step back last year. I'm not expecting Hayward to be on the team by June. And, maybe Outman can come up. Maybe one of these other prospects can come up, but that's a big assumption. So, I just don't feel like this was a traditional Dodgers offseason, and I don't know how to feel about it. And I think even Gavin Lux playing a lot more games at shortstop is an assumption. Yeah. There's a lot of assumptions here on top of Tony Gonsolin staying healthy, who struggled with his health at the end of the year and was babied all season long. Dustin May coming off of injury. Noah Syndergaard being relied on to stay healthy. Clayton Kershaw is old and doesn't stay healthy. It's pretty weird, man. I'm surprised by this one.
We talked about this a little bit earlier on this offseason. Kershaw, Urias, Gonsolin, May, Syndergaard. How much confidence do you have in any of those guys throwing more than 170 innings this year? I've got next to no confidence there. Urias has to take a step up, but he was out after 6, pretty much every time. He was protected. The ERA was great, but he never worked deep into games like Sandy, and that's why Sandy was the unanimous Cy Young winner, because Urias was good. Urias, I think, had a better ERA, but he never worked that deep into games.
Yep.
They protected them. Obviously, they've got a good bullpen, but I think this team needs a horse. Walker Buehler has been that guy. He'll be that guy in 2024, but you had to figure out a way to get through 23 without Walker Buehler. I just don't know if they did it when it comes to finding a horse.
I'm telling you, man, I'm putting a lot of stock in Bobby Miller. Like, Bobby Miller might be an X factor for this, which is crazy. There's a few X factors.
So, but that's why I dock them, because you're placing so much confidence in the hands of rookie pitchers. You're placing a ton of confidence in Miguel Vargas to be an everyday guy. You're placing a ton of confidence in a lot of unproven guys to help the LA Dodgers. We liked that the Brewers did it, clearing away for the youngsters, but the Brewers and the Dodgers are not in the same league, man.
And the Brewers can win that division with a little bit less. I think the Cardinals, they're obviously a very good team, but they were 93 wins last year, and we're not sure they're going to match that, right? So, the Brewers, I think it's more feasible, whereas the Dodgers, they got to deal with the Padres, who I think are coming for them. And I think even the Giants are going to be improved, and we'll see what the D-backs are capable of. But at the end of the day, maybe this is all the Dodgers. Maybe this is all the Dodgers needed to still pace this division. Maybe that's what they feel. And maybe they go make that big move as the season endures at some point. Maybe they go do that. The last thing I want to say, though, is I do like the addition of Fire Ice and Alex Reyes. I think those are two good moves. Both of those guys won't be ready for a few months, I don't think, or at least, for the start of the season. Definitely not Fire Ice, and I know Reyes won't be ready for the start. I think he could beat Fire Ice and back to the field. Both of those guys could make the bullpen, honestly, one of the greatest ever. And that's what's going to be a big selling point for them, is that they won't need as much from their starters. So I like that approach of hedging the rotation. But at the end of the day, you're still going to need 5 innings from these guys. And this is my final point. I think it's very likely, and I hope I'm wrong, but it's just the way it is. It's very likely that multiple of Kershaw, Gonsolin, Syndergaard, and May will miss several starts throughout the season.
Yes.
Who's plugging in for those guys, and how are they going to do? That's
Miller,
a big
Stone,
question, and
yeah.
I don't feel great about the answer. So that's where I'm at on that.
So I went C- because the Dodgers have been a super team in years prior, right? Like it's always been, oh my God, who's going to touch the Dodgers? This year, I don't think that's the conversation around the Dodgers just on paper. My thought is if you retain your super team identity, that's a C. If the super team narrative becomes more apparent, that's a C plus or higher. But now I think there are some flaws that are glaring on this roster, and that's why I dock him a little bit. C-.
Well, and something important that we didn't do here is who'd you lose? Well, they lost Trey Turner.
Yeah.
And again, you're plugging in Gavin Lux and Miguel Rojas and maybe Miguel Vargas in the middle infield, like not shortstop, obviously, maybe he'd play second, but that revolving door middle infielders here, that's not nearly as good as Trey Turner. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like a C- is harsh, but this team got worse. So if they got worse, I feel like I got to give them a C- too.
There we go. All right. Staying the same, just like we have all damn week, whatever. San Diego Padres, obviously the big fish that they signed was Xander Bogaerts, 11 years, $280 million. They also grabbed Matt Carpenter and Nelson Cruz on one-year free agent deals. Looks like they're going to be in the lineup. They grabbed Adam Engel on a free agent deal. I love Engel as a bench outfielder. He's one of the best defensive outfielders in the game. He cannot hit for shit. I will tell you that. They signed Seth Lugo as a starting pitcher, but they extend Joe Musgrove on that $100 million deal right before the end of the season. They just extended Yu Darvish on a $100+ million deal. They extend Robert Suarez on a 5-year, near $50 million deal. They grab Jose Lopez, our favorite, the jumbo lefty from the Rays org.
Hell yeah.
The Rule 5 draft. That's what they do. Xander Bogaerts is obviously the one that shoots them into the top. And the big four is unlike anything we've seen in recent history in baseball, with Soto, Tatis when he comes back at the end of April, Machado, and Bogaerts. But this is a top-heavy team. It's a top-heavy lineup. It's a top-heavy rotation. There's no farm depth for them. Jackson Merrill is still several years away, methinks. This bench isn't good. Campusano, Brandon Dixon, Jose Azocar, Adam Engel. I do think they got a lot better, and that starts with number 2 that's going to be at shortstop.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you get a Xander Bogaerts, added to your team or anybody of that caliber, you're going to be pretty excited about that. I mean, and then I like the more quiet moves of Matt Carpenter. Hell, see what Nelson Cruz can do for you. I almost consider him a bench bat at $1 million, and I just think he's a great guy to have around. And I still think that he can be productive in spots. I just don't think he needs to be playing every day like he was in Washington. You keep him fresh. He could be a decent power bat that hits lefties like a lot of the aging longtime stars have done. I don't think they needed to do much with the with the bullpen other than retain. I'm interested to see the rotation though. Like that's the question, right? We criticized them in the past when we were talking about some offseason moves of like, okay, Nick Martinez, Seth Lugo. Are you feeling good about those guys as your 4 and 5 starters? Right. I would have loved to have seen them go get a Johnny Cueto because, you don't have anybody, as you mentioned, coming up through the system that might come in and be able to anchor that 5 spot. Johnny Cueto is their 5 starter. I'd feel a lot better because at least I know that guy can start. I don't know how Nick Martinez is going to be. He was really solid as a reliever. I don't know how he is as a starter, and even in small stretches that we've seen as a starter, he hasn't been as good. Seth Lugo, we have no freaking clue what he's going to look like as a starter. And again, what's the contingency plan on those guys if it doesn't pan out? Like what are some of the other starting pitching options? What are you going to go to Adrian Morejon?
I'll tell you right now, it's
Brent
Morejon,
Honeywell, Ryan Weathers, Julio Teheran. Like, what's your plan for the 5 starter? If one of these 2 guys don't pan out, there's a chance that both of these guys are better as relievers. Then what do you do?
Right. So I was almost like going to run you through an exercise. Like, who do you think can actually be a major league starter that is waiting in the wings right now? Morejon, the jury. I don't think the jury's out yet on Morejon. I think that that's an incredibly talented left-handed arm. I think that Morejon could give the Padres serious starts. Jay Groom, the jury's getting close to being out on Groom. Honeywell, I think the jury's out on Honeywell. I don't think that he's a major league starter. Reese Neer, he's not. Weathers, obviously, you cannot rule that guy out. He's 23 years old, but he sucked out loud in AAA last year. Tehran, he's a 32-year-old that is projected a 5 ERA. That feels generous. Anderson Espinoza is a guy that had like a brief cameo with the Cubs last year. Matt Waldron's a knuckleballer that had, I think, like a 7 ERA in AA or AAA last year. So there's really nothing going on. I think that there's a guy out on the market that makes a shit ton of sense for the Padres in a 1-year deal. Who am I thinking of?
Guy on the market still.
Still on the market.
Oh, Michael Wacha.
Might I introduce you to Michael Wacha? I think Wacha makes a ton of sense for the Padres.
I like that a lot. And again, another guy that, like, okay, if Lugo and Martinez are showing out, Wacha can kind of be in that swingman role. Clearly, there's not teams lining up for him. I think he's holding out for that multi-year deal. Give him the multi-year deal.
Give him the multi-year deal. Snell's coming off the books.
Yeah. And so that's a guy that I think is a no-brainer. I think they need to stockpile more arms, especially because I still like Wacha, even though I think he's due to regress quite a bit. I still like him better than Lugo. Lugo's guy hasn't started any games since 2020, and if I'm not mistaken, those starts in 2020 were mostly just as opener guy. His only swing and miss pitch is that breaking ball, and even then, like, wasn't that dynamite for him, considering what he would need to do as a starter. He was throwing at 35% of the time last year, which is more than any other offering. You can't do that as a starter. So now you're going to ask Seth Lugo to be a different pitcher. His fastball is good, but that was in shorter spurts. Is he going to still play up at 95? 94, 95. I don't know. So I'm interested to see how it looks, but that's something that I think for a team that is trying to catch the Dodgers, and the Dodgers showed some signs of maybe vulnerability, at least not being a 111 win team again.
Yeah,
I'd like to see a slightly better rotation. When it comes to the lineup, I love it. I'm glad they didn't trade Ha-Seong Kim. I think
I love Kim.
Depth can go thin really quickly. And, Kim will be one of the best defensive second basemen. We're seeing this across the game, right? Nico Horner moving off a short to second because of the limitation of the shift. Bryce Terang, as we've talked about, elite defensive shortstop prospect. He's going to second base. That's going to be great for them. Like now Ha-Seong Kim, great defensive shortstop. Put him at second. Is he a better defensive shortstop than Xander? Probably, but Xander made major strides last year, and now that makes your middle infield a lot better defensively, and you've got that Machado guy at third. So, I love what they've got infield-wise. I love, again, the upside additions of Cruz and Carpenter. I think one of those guys will contribute, more likely Carpenter. Nola and Campusano is fine as a catching situation. Grisham, if he's your 9-hitter and playing a great center field, that's fine. He's going to run into some baseballs here and there. But it's tough to grade this one because it's a lot of extensions that I want to reward them for. A couple decent additions, one great addition. And at the end of the day, you look at this team, they didn't really lose anything. You could dock them for Josh Bell, but they traded for Josh Bell. You could dock them for Drury. They traded for Drury. They traded both those guys to be rentals. They lost Minaya, whatever. They lost Will Myers. I'm sure they were thrilled about that. Yeah. So a lot of the subtractions were either guys that were rentals, so I'm not going to penalize them for making their team better at the end of last year, or guys that were addition by subtraction in Will Myers. So I think that kind of puts them over the top too. They didn't really lose anything, if I'm not mistaken. They lost Mike Clevenger too. Okay. And I mean, obviously they dodged multiple bullets on that one beyond what he was not doing on the field too. He was terrible on the mound, and obviously he's worse off the mound allegedly. So, this is an off season in terms of what they subtracted. They're not going to feel much there. So I would go solid B on this one. Solid B. I would have liked to see more on the pitching side. They could have put it towards a B+, A-. But when you add a superstar like Xander and all the other additions, that aren't the sexiest, but still made them better, and the extensions, that could almost make it a B plus, but I'm going to go B.
Okay. I actually go B plus. And the reason I do that is, and just tying a bow on Seth Lugo here, you mentioned you thought he was starting as an opener in 2020. He was. He threw under 27 innings in those 7 starts, and he had an ERA over 6. So this guy is unproven as a starting pitcher now. While I don't like that, Darvish, Musgrove, Snell is an elite front 3. And that top 4 in the batting order is unparalleled, dude. I mean, Tatis, Soto, Machado, Bogarts is fucking insane. The 2012 Miami Heat, LeBron's first NBA Finals. And yes, I'm going to make this comp. Scoring leaders for the Miami Heat. LeBron at 27 points per game. Dwayne Wade at 22 points per game. Chris Bosh at 18 points per game. After that, Mario Chalmers, Norris Cole, Mike Miller, Udonis Haslem, Shane Battier, Terrell Harris, James Jones, Ronny Turioff, Joel Anthony, Dexter Pittman. Like, there's a massive, massive drop-off. Mm-hmm. And I know baseball is different than basketball, but you know what? They won the freaking NBA Finals because of LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. When it comes down to the World Series, the only reason the Phillies got there, it was not because of Bailey Falter. It was because of Bryce Harper.
It wasn't Brandon Marsh either.
It wasn't Marsh. It wasn't Marsh. Hell, it wasn't Stott. It was Bryce Harper, Zach Wheeler, and Aaron Nola. That's why they got there. So if you put yourself in a position to make a postseason run and you've got Soto, Machado, Tatis, Bogarts, and then you've got Darvish, Musgrove, and Snell as your front 3 in the rotation, feel really good about going to war there.
That's the thing. They've got those three guys at the top. And again, I mean, I don't want to be hypocritical because we were talking about the Dodgers, but I don't love the Dodgers top 3 the same way, right? Yeah, I know Kershaw's a Hall of Famer, but we're talking about 2023 here. I don't like that top 3 in a postseason series against the Padres top 3. I don't think it's very close. And in the postseason, it's all about the 3-headed monster. That's what it's all about, is your 3 starters. And can you mix in a 4th guy or a good bullpen game? The Padres will go get that 4th guy. But the top 3, if we got a short series, a 5-game set or a 3-game set or whatever it would be a 5-game set against the Dodgers, right?
Yeah.
Or would it be 7 now? The playoff format, I legitimately forget.
3-game series in the wild card, 5-game in the DS, 7-game in the CS in the World Series.
5-game series, man. Like, I feel a lot better about the starting pitching matchups with the Padres. And if they can get into the postseason with what they've got, then they're fine. And I think they're going to be able to do that. And they're going to go get somebody else. I would have liked a little bit more. The extensions help. I could definitely see a B+, but we'll keep it different. I'll stick a B.
So here's the last thing that I want to say about that 3-headed monster with the Padres. Darvish, he's got enough pitches to massage his way through 7 innings in the postseason, right? Like, he has enough options, and this guy has learned from struggles over the course of a really good career. And I think we're seeing the best Yu Darvish that we've ever seen. Yep. Joe Musgrove is a badass MF. Yep. Musgrove is built for the postseason. Blake Snell, when he's on, is a badass MF. This guy is built for big games as well. So you've got gamers. Is Arias a gamer? I think so. Yeah. But is Gonsolin a gamer? I don't think so. Is Dustin May a gamer? I don't know. Is Kershaw a gamer? Historically, not. So that's the big thing. And I think that's the separator, and that's what pushes me to a B+. The San Francisco Giants were in on a whole bunch of guys, and they reportedly agreed with Aaron Judge, Arson Judge. They did not get Arson Judge. They agreed with Carlos Correa until it was time for his press conference, and then all of a sudden it was get the hell out of Dodge. But they did have Jock Peterson accept the qualifying offer. They did sign Michael Conforto. They signed Mitch Haniger. They grabbed Roberto Perez as the backup catcher to Joey Bart, might be the starting catcher. And then they signed Sean Manaea and Ross Stripling to free agent deals. They signed Taylor Rogers to free agent deals. They grab Luke Jackson, who's on the mend from Tommy John surgery, and they go and trade for Blake Sabol, who was selected by Cincinnati in the Rule 5 draft. I think San Francisco, after getting gypped twice, had a pretty successful offseason. I just wish they landed the big fish, although I do think that it sets them up well for an Ohtani or a Soto run.
Yeah, I think they made some all right moves. They got hosed in a couple of different ways between the Judge situation, and they were pretty much used as leverage there. And then, you can't blame them for pulling out of this Correa situation because they weren't the only ones, right? Yeah. They were far from the only ones. Even the New York Mets and the endless money of Steve Cohen, after finding this all out, pulled out. So you can't really dock the Giants for that. My thing is, how much better did this team get? I think a little bit, but I don't feel confident in any of their additions for sure being better than a 3-WAR guy. I love Mitch Haniger. I thought that was a great addition, but I would have liked a little bit more of a slam dunk around that, right? Because you'll get Michael Conforto. We have no freaking clue what this guy's going to be. Again, I like the addition if that's like your one wild card edition, but it's wild card for your 2 outfielders. Okay. Then you go to the rotation. Ross Stripling's coming off of the best year of his career. It's a good pickup. I don't know if he's going to do it again. Sean Manaea is coming off of, I think, the worst he's maybe ever looked. I don't think he's going to do much. And then he talked about some of the bullpen additions. Rogers was kind of bad last year. He's coming off of one of the worst years we've seen from him. I think they got better, but I don't know if they really made enough of a difference to give this offseason something like much more than a C+ for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that they bought low on Manaea and on Taylor Rogers. I feel a lot better about Taylor Rogers bouncing back than I do Manaea.
Oh, absolutely.
Although we did get a text from one of our college guys, Ryan Miller, that Sean Manaea was at the Waste Management Open with Bryce Harper and Juan Soto. So maybe he's trying to, I don't know, ingest some of that talent from them.
Through osmosis?
Through osmosis, yeah, I think so. Yeah, man. I mean, I don't feel great about this rotation right now. Although a month in, when they add Kyle Harrison, I feel good about this rotation. I feel decent about the lineup. You mentioned the wild cards. I have no idea what Michael Conforto is going to look like. If anybody tells you that they know what Michael Conforto looks like, they're lying. And you can
it's only going to be Scott Boras, and he doesn't even know. He's just doing his job.
Right. So he's just going to put together like a shitty pun to tell you that Conforto's ready for the big stage again.
And a slideshow. Like that's what he does. But Christmas came early for the Confortos, but then he signed in like 4 months later. But look, I think they got better. I think Haniger can help. Conforto could be bounce back, trade chip, or whatever. But at the end of the day, this is a team that's still just a full tier below, right? And I like the Luke Jackson signing to kind of try to put this bullpen over the top. Yeah. And I will say one super underrated move that I think people are going to start to catch on to, and I think he's going to get a chance early this year, is Brett Wisely. They made that trade with the Rays in the 40-man crunch situation. Wisely's underrated. That guy can really swing it. He's going to get a chance to get up, and he's very versatile and kind of fits that Giants MO. But again, these are smaller moves. I agree with what you're saying, Jack. I think they're trying to build a base here because they know they're not going to make it all back this year. You're not going to catch up to the Padres and the Dodgers in 1 year, but you can put a better product on the field, build the base, the players around, those role players, right? And then go get your whale or whales with an S next year in what should be a very talented free agency class. So that's what I think they're doing here. And for that reason, I can give them a C+, but I'm not going to give them more than that because this team's not going to gain that many wins, if at all. Their catching situation stinks. Their outfield situation could turn it into a disaster if Conforto or Haniger can't stay healthy. And if Yastrzemski doesn't improve off of what was a downer year last year, they're banking on Lamont Wade. They're banking on Brandon Crawford getting back to what he was 2 years ago. And at the end of the day, there's slated to give Wilmer Flores at bats. Like, I think there's a legitimate situation where Brett Wisely and Casey Schmidt are up there and are better options than Lamont Wade, Wilmer
and
Flores,
Sable.
and Brandon Crawford. And Sable might be their best catching option. So if that's the case, can't give them better than a C+. But I will say they made good enough moves to you could see the direction.
Unfortunately, we have the same grade again. Damn it. But like, how can you not? Because if a C is holding serve, like, they're better than they were last year.
Yeah.
Now, they struck out twice, so I got to dock them for that. And they go and grab guys that might blow up in their face. But you know what? I applaud the effort of San Francisco to put together a better product for their fans to go see. Because at the end of last year, it wasn't that good of a product.
No.
I appreciate that the product's going to be better on opening day.
Oh no, it's a lineup full of names that are, for the most part, worth watching or worth saying, let's see if this guy can blossom into something.
I would absolutely pay $7 for a nosebleed seat to go see what Michael Conforto is.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And again, like when Mitch Haniger's up at the plate, like that's a good big league hitter. Like they've definitely upgraded the product. But the next team, I think, also did the same thing, and I'm really interested to see. I don't know who you're planning to go to next. I don't want to go to the Rockies next.
No.
I think we should round out with them. Talk about putting a product on a team that gets way better attendance than they deserve. But I'm interested to see how the attendance looks in Arizona, Jack, because look, I know this isn't a team that's going to compete next year. I think there's an outside chance because I think they could be, America's team this year, as we've talked about how it was the Mariners 2 years ago. Last year it was the Orioles. I think this year it's going to be the D-backs, and remember all those teams came up short. But I want to see the Arizona community kind of grab onto this team because they're going to be fun. They're going to be competitive, and they're just downright better than they've been in the last few years. I'm interested to see where you line up on the offseason grade here.
This is a 2K team. Like if I'm playing a buddy in MLB The Show and we're doing like best of 3 randoms and I land on Arizona with my second pick, I don't need a third. I want to play with the Arizona Diamondbacks because obviously you have the top prospect in the game in Corbin Carroll, but their massive move obviously was flipping Dalton Varsho to Toronto for Gabby Moreno and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Not to mention, they sign Evan Longoria to a free agent deal. They go grab Kyle Lewis to see what he's possibly made of. You sign Andrew Chafin to this deal. You sign Miguel Castro to a minor league deal or to a free agent deal. You sign Scott McGough to a major league deal. And you fill out with a couple of minor league additions, right? You go and grab Diego Castillo for some middle infield depth from Pittsburgh. You go and grab who else? There was an outfielder that they grabbed.
An outfielder.
No, they didn't. They claimed Cole Sulser on waivers.
I think that's a good pickup too. I was pretty surprised that the Marlins did not tender him.
Right. They signed Juris Familia to a free agent deal to see what he's made of. They signed an Austin Bryce to a minor league deal to see what he's made of. So I obviously the big fish here is Moreno and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. for Dalton Varsho. The 2-for-1 there, adding Longoria, adding Kyle Lewis, this is a genuinely exciting offense. And I think they have one of the best benches in baseball right now, because if you go around and say Longoria isn't starting for you, say Josh Rojas is at third, you've got probably Moreno catching, you've got Walker at first, you've got Ketel Marte at second, you've got Nick Ahmed at short, Josh Rojas at third, Corbin Carroll in left, you've got Alec Thomas in center, or Thomas in left, Carroll in center, Jake McCarthy in right, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is the DH, and your bench is Carson Kelly, Evan Longoria, Geraldo Perdomo, and Kyle Lewis. That's a fun offense.
And not to mention, there's more guys on the way to give them pitching help. But to echo your point on the offense, I mean, not only is this an offense that could progressively get better by the way of Corbin Carroll just blossoming, by the way of Alec Thomas blossoming, Christian Walker looks like one of the better power hitters, in his division. I mean, it's pretty remarkable to say, but he was. Look at the numbers last year, and every underlying metric points towards that being sustainable. They add Lourdes Gurriel, who's just more of that consistent bat for you. We'll see how much power he hits for, but a really consistent bat. And then Gabriel Moreno, he could be one of the best offensive catchers in baseball, yes, if he's tapping into that power. And I don't think people realize, like, the question has been, how much power is he going to hit for it? Because in game, he hasn't always tapped into it. This guy hit a 113 mile an hour line drive that put a hole in the wall in left field. Like, the ball got stuck in the wall. He has juice. I've always said that. The power is there. But even if it takes him some time to tap into it, he's an elite hit tool guy. He's 70 grade. He's going to hit. And with the more spacious outfield, better hitter environments that he's going to be in now, this guy's going to be such a good bat for them that when Carson Kelly's catching, you're going to find a way to get Moreno in the lineup. I don't know if it's DH or whatever you're going to figure out. He's really athletic. You're going to find a way to get him in the lineup. And the thing is there's a few different guys that you could ride the hot hand. When Longo's swinging it, find a way to get him in the lineup, either at third, and you can move guys around or in the DH spot. And we'll see what some of these other dudes can do. But, I feel like this offense has a chance to be actually really good, especially if Ketel Marte bounces back.
Yeah.
And if McCarthy can kind of match what he did last year. And then the rotation's the question, right? They have Zach Gallen, though, who's clear-cut, good ace for a lot of really good rotations. Merrill Kelly is safe and solid. Zach Davies, I think it was really good for them to bring him back because that is just another safe arm that I think really doesn't get enough praise, is just really steady through most of his career. And then they've got Mad Bum, whatever, and Ryan Nelson, but we talk about Brandon Pfaadt, who's going to be up there probably pretty early and can help them. And then to improve that bullpen with an Andrew Chafin, right, which I really think puts them over the top in this offseason. If they were on the fringe of that B+ for me, that might put them closer to an A-. And then Miguel Castro is another really solid reliever. So, I like the moves they made. And then the Jeurys Familia bounce back. Let's see what happens. I think the pitch clock is his worst nightmare, but we'll see what happens. I'm leaning A- on this one, man, because I really think this team did everything they could to make them more competitive this year. I think that the trade to get a Moreno and a Gurriel when you're trading for a surplus was just amazing. Seize the moment. And I don't think many other teams will ever get an opportunity to acquire a prospect like Moreno like that for one player, for one outfielder that isn't a superstar. He's really good, but he's not a superstar. And I don't think they're going to really feel that. They also lost nobody in free agency, right? They lost Jordan Luplow. They lost Ian Kennedy and Caleb Smith. Okay.
I'm good.
So this team got a lot better, and they're naturally going to get a lot better. I'm going A-.
Okay. I'm going B+. And the only reason I do that, I think I would be with you on the A- train. If I felt better about their shortstop situation for 2023, and they feel this sense of allegiance to Nick Ahmed. I appreciate why you do. Like, he's a platinum glove level defender. He's never going to hit enough to be in the lineup often enough to like be this platinum glove recipient. Geraldo Perdomo, a gold glove caliber shortstop, but he can't hit. I wish they went with a time buyer, and the idea of Xander Bogaerts, which was floated in November, made all the sense in the world to me. Like, I was all about Xander in Arizona. Ahmed and sorry, I was getting a FaceTime. Ahmed and Perdomo is not something that I love. Now, in 2024, on opening day when Jordan Lawler is the shortstop, I'm all about this lineup, man. I mean, I think this guy is one of the better, honestly, because of what he does defense and speed-wise, safer shortstop prospects in the game in Lawler. I think that this team like knows that he's going to be there in a year. I just wish they went with like an Elvis Andrus on a 1-year deal or an Iglesias on a 1-year deal.
That's the one thing. So I would say, like, the market, the way the market materialized, it just wasn't in the cards for them. There's no reason to give a 10-year deal to one of those guys. And I appreciate that they were in on them, but it doesn't make sense for them. I think they can get by with, riding the hot hand of Ahmed or Perdomo, whoever's swinging it at that point, and enough. And, they're both going to defend really well. Sure. You could have went and got one of those guys, but are you going to just cast off Nick Ahmed for a marginal upgrade? I think they like what he brings to the table as one of the continuous veterans there. And while I hear you on that, I don't know if the perfect opportunity was out there. And I don't know if Andrus is worth, sending off one of the familiar faces in your clubhouse, one of the few guys that's been there through, a lot of change over the last few years, and seeing what Perdomo can do. But I'm glad we saved the best for last with the Rockies.
Yeah. So you went A-, I went B+. The Rockies add Harold Castro in free agency. They trade for Connor Seabold. They had Pierce Johnson, who is probably the biggest pickup of the offseason. Pierce Johnson, by the way, a guest on a recent episode of Show and Go with Taylor Davis. Find that wherever you get your podcast. Pierce was actually freaking awesome. He's a Colorado guy. They have this obsession with like Colorado guys and like making them theirs. And I'm all about it for Pierce Johnson. Like, it couldn't happen to a better dude. They claim Brent Suter off waivers. They claim Nick Mears off waivers. And that's about it. I mean, this team, what did ownership say at like, it wasn't like the Rockies convention or anything. I think it was just media availability for the ownership. And they said something along the lines of, I truly believe we can be a 500 team this year.
Yeah. It was, I believe we can be a 500 team.
Damn it.
That's everything that's wrong with baseball. What are you doing? Like, if you're not going to try for more, like, again, I'll use like the disgraced Marlins as an example. Kim Ng ain't coming out. Neither is Bruce Sherman saying, I think we could be a 500 team this year because guess what? Like they're hoping everything clicks and that they can do a little bit more than that. Is that a little bit crazy? Sure. But at least they made moves. When you come out and say, I think we can be a 500 team and you did jack shit, that's where it's even more frustrating because at least other teams are trying. I'm not saying that all the moves are good, but at least they're trying. This is just complacency because they know that they're going to be in the top 10 in attendance because they have a beautiful stadium in the middle of Denver and the weather is perfect and there's a million runs every game and it's a fun thing to do and the tickets are cheap and it's bullshit. And I hate it. I hate it. I mean, I love that they have good attendance. I don't want that to change, but they don't deserve it. There's a lot of other teams that deserve that attendance. The fucking D-backs deserve that attendance. It's really unfortunate and it's annoying. And then they're going to make that one signing here and there. Oh, we got Chris Bryant though. How happy are you about how much we overpaid for that guy that's barely on the field and overrated? Like, I just don't like anything that they do at that organization. I think Bill Schmidt's done an all right job at, building something from the ground up with the farm system, and the way that they've approached the draft the last year or so has been good. There's brighter days ahead. I like their system. I like what they're doing in the minors. But I mean, did they get any better, Jack? No, I don't think so. They lose Connor Joe. I mean, whatever. They lose Chad Cool. Whatever.
Connor Joe.
They lose Colomé. They lose Jose Iglesias. And they gain the guys that you mentioned. This is a clear-cut F for me. Wow. And there's no way around that. Honestly, put me down for an F- because I'm just sick. I'm just sick of it. Like this is all the harsh criticism that we give, like the Orioles and whatever. Like to me, this is 10 times worse. I'm gonna go F-.
Okay, you've got F-. I've got D-. Just because like Suter could be a major league reliever still. Pierce Johnson could be a major league reliever.
They lost major league relievers.
Yeah, I know. But like you replace them.
Nice.
Yeah, D- just because like it's not the level of Oakland last year, but it's really close. Really, really close.
Yeah. I just think the difference is they have way more money and like they have way more ability. And that's why it's F-.
Like, dude, that Oakland owner is worth $2 billion.
I understand that. I get that. But I'm saying like just the team revenue, they drive more. It's just
like the revenue can pay for Tyler Anderson if they wanted Tyler Anderson.
That's what I'm saying. Or just like get Randall Grichuk out of there. How much longer do we have to watch Charlie Blackmon like playing every day? It's just insane to me. And they didn't extend anybody, right? They didn't really give any deals to anybody, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, in the last like year, they've extended.
No, I know that, but I'm saying this offseason.
This offseason, I don't think so. They extended
F-
at the end of the 2022 season.
Yeah, put me down for the F-.
All right, D- just because I reserved.
Oh, no. They got Nolan Jones.
Ah, shit. They did get Nolan Jones.
I like not put me down for
straight F.
Straight F.
All right.
Nolan Jones, big power. I actually like that pickup for them.
It used to be F-, now it's an F.
An F. I really like the Nolan Jones pickup, but at the end of the day, he could just strike out and not really be a dude. So I like that pickup though. He could mash and course.
Okay. You've got an F. I've got a D-. Yeah, I just reserved my F for the 2021-22 Oakland Athletics offseason. So that's all right. This was a fun one. We'll be back. I think we're doing fantasy baseball content this week. So
hell yeah.
Yeah, that'll be Peter and I on tomorrow's episode. It was really cool when the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, right. It'll be fun looking back, saying, "Remember when we didn't bet on the one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, one of the best coaches of all time, and one of the best tight ends of all time?"
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
You're talking about the what's his name, Gadsden or something? That's like plus 6,000 to score the first touchdown that Peter.
Forston.
Yeah,
I know Peter's all over that one. Plus 6,000.
Gadsden is the wide receiver for Syracuse, I think, who was like good this year.
Yeah, Rondé Gadsden's son. No, that's something else. But enjoy the Super Bowl, or I guess everybody. I hope you enjoyed the Super Bowl, and please send Jack a lot of happy birthday notes.
I hope everybody's nursing their hangover effectively, and don't you dare send me happy birthday notes. We'll talk to you tomorrow.